Welcome to the Radio Horror Show here at WCUW. Tonight on the show with us, we have the creators behind the Top Cow series Revolver on the show. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me to talk about this cool supernatural story from Top Cow.
Yeah, glad to be here.
For people not familiar with Revolver, tell them a little bit about it.
Sure, I'll go first. My name is John Zura-Platten. Everybody calls me JZP. I'm the writer of Revolvers. Basically, the story is about a cop who finds himself sort of trapped between life and death and ends up in this place called the Moratorium, which is this alternate reality purgatory. And in that world, he starts coming face to face with a lot of his past, and he realizes that to eventually resolve why he's there, he's going to have to shoot his way out. So it's a little bit like John Wick meets supernatural horror. John Wick meets The Sixth Sense, Ghost with Guns. And I was incredibly fortunate and incredibly lucky that Christian Dabari, the artist, was on the project with me and really helped me put it together in a way that it kind of, what Christian did is he kind of took what I was thinking and elevated it to the next level by bringing a real kind of rock and roll aesthetic to it, a real urban street level aesthetic that I think it worked beautifully, and it was something that I think it needed. So Christian, did you want to add anything there?
Well, first off, thank you. I'm the artist Christian Dabari, and basically to piggyback off of what John just said, the story was very, very visceral to me. It had that kind of blend of David Fincher, Seven, Michael Mann's Heat, and some Hellraiser, just lots of things mixed together that, like, as I read the first issue, I was like, okay, this is going to be crazy. Like, and each script, each issue only got crazier. I want to say it was maybe even down to the third issue kind of took me by complete surprise because I kept thinking, no, it's not going to get any crazier than this. But it just continued. And for me, it was a great sandbox to play in. Lots of great chances to kind of do really messed up demonic creatures. Hampton, the main character, I kind of just envisioned him as kind of sort of a Tom Hardy type, kind of chiseled a little bit, like he's been through so much. That was my, that's who I modeled after the main character. And there's a lot of twists and turns. There was a couple points where I even had to stop and kind of go back and make sure that I was when I was drawing pages, I was like, wait a minute, I'm making sure I'm getting all this right, because there was a point where it got almost like Inception, I guess you could say, where it was like there was things happening in the real world and then spirit world that were intertwining, and that was a first for me. I was like, oh my god, I don't think I've ever gotten a chance to do this sort of thing. So it was kind of just crazy.
I think we got really lucky too, in that both Christian and I are both big fans of sort of 80s horror, grindhouse horror.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell by more about Christian's work than yours. John, I'm just kind of learning about for the first time, but I might have read something yours I wasn't familiar with. But Christian, I knew from the Black Caravan books he worked on. Joseph is a friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
Awesome. By the way, Christian, I have a bit of a surprise for you. If you, I don't know where you're going to be able to see it because it's not online yet, but if you look for a little short film that I directed and starred in during the pandemic, and it was intercut with people calling into a radio show with a DJ, has to work overnight, so people film their own stuff, kind of like we are on the camera now. But they filmed their stuff and then sent it to me, and we cut it in like a conversation you'd have with somebody on the phone, like you see in a movie. Excuse me. The radio DJ is reading the cutter.
Oh, huh. Nice, man.
Yeah, so there's copies of the
That's
Cutter
wild.
comic book in some of the shots of the movie.
Oh, wow. Okay, that was the first Top Cow series I had ever done. Like that was at the very, very,
Mm.
very start. Like, geez, I want to say 2010, 2011 or something
Oh
like
wow,
that.
really? Oh my god.
Yeah, there was a like there was real quick there was like some shifts going on with like editorial. Some guys had left, or or let go, various reasons, I guess. And so the book kept getting delayed, and unfortunately, I didn't get to do the final issue. I didn't get to do it because by the time they came back, um, I was already on some other project, and I was like, I told them I could only do covers.
Mm.
I couldn't do anything else. But Cutter was that was interesting. That was in black and white. That was like, maybe that was Top Cow's first horror comic. Maybe, I want
I
to say.
mean, I guess. I mean, Witchblade and Darkness have always been in the horror
Oh
genre,
yeah,
Yeah,
fantasy,
yeah,
dark fantasy. But I mean, more the Darkness than Witchblade, I think, just because he's got those demon goblin things
yes,
hanging
correct.
out with him.
yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely. I think Cutter was just more like what we're talking about with Grindhouse, 80s horror, where it was like a girl that was brutally murdered and assaulted, and
yeah,
then suddenly she's back from the dead, killing each one of these
well,
people
it was
from
just
high
by
school that
coincidence because we needed a prop because he was working the late night shift. So
that's
I put
funny.
some comics on the mantle, and I just happened to have those like right next to me. I was probably sorting my long boxes, and I just grabbed them for the shot that day because I was going back to film at
Wow.
the studio, and it's actually the studio. If you can see the camera behind me through the glass, you really can't see it. That's actually where it's
Mm.
shot, so it's funny. But yeah, they were right
Oh,
there,
okay.
and I'm holding a copy of the Cutter up in front of my face, in front of the camera. I don't
Nice.
know if it's one of yours, but if you did all the covers, then yeah, that
Yeah.
your artwork's right there in the shot. So
Oh, nice. Yeah,
yeah, so if I
I
win
did
an Academy
all
Award,
all
I'll yell out, be like, "Yo, find the Cutter!" Everyone will be looking at me like, "What?"
You'll make me
Top
proud.
Cow
Thank
Studio
you.
gets shout out at Academy Awards for independent filmmaker.
Awesome. Nice, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. But I mean, even though I didn't get the rest of the issues, and now I'm gonna look up for the trade paperback, or I'll look for the other issues of this book. Revolver also reminded me a little bit of. Have you guys ever read The Gray by John Romita Jr.?
Uh,
No,
I don't.
It was an Image comic. A guy, I think he's a cop. He's a crappy cop. He gets killed. He's got to work in the Gray, and he's gonna do like assassination missions or something like that for this like in between world. He's not allowed to go to heaven. He's not that bad to go to hell, but
Mhm.
he's gonna clean up his act in the afterlife, and he's got like a sponsor that's helping him out.
Right. Well,
huh.
if I could tell you, if I told you what the ultimate truth is of the moratorium, it might spoil the story for you.
That's
So
fine. Yeah, yeah. Don't
all the
tell
thing,
anybody, just in case
yeah,
anyone who's watching this hasn't never even
but
heard of it. Just because
but
I honestly sometimes I don't feel Top Cow gets the big push like Image does. You know what I mean?
right, right.
Unless it's Witchblade or it's Darkness. And we have covered exhaustively on a show I do. I mean, we did the Witchblade TV
Yeah.
series on the Dead TV podcast, so we have like waxed politically about Top Cow like crazy. But I mean,
Well,
the
and
cover
I was really,
grabbed me for this thing, and I immediately loved reading it as soon as I finished the
yeah,
first issue.
I was really fortunate in a number of ways on Revolvers. So Revolvers is my second comic. I wrote Saint Mercy also for Top Cow and Image, which was art by Attilio Rojo, who's a phenomenal artist as well. And but my background is a lot of traditional media and a whole boatload of video game stuff. So
Oh,
I've been
cool.
writing video games for almost 30 years.
What video
And
games?
yeah, and written huge franchises like Ghostbusters and Jurassic World and that sort of stuff. So when it came time, my partner and I are at a company called Epitome, and we were looking at developing IP. And my partner Rich Leibowitz and I are longtime friends with Matt Hawkins at Top Cow.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started talking about ways we were going to start developing IP. And so these sort of came out of that desire to start generating new content, new IP, go beyond sort of the traditional sort of superhero storytelling and kind of go. And I've always leaned into the dark, and I've always loved horror, and I've always liked psychological thriller and that sort of thing. And so we were really fortunate that Matt hooked us up with Christian. And once it was funny because I had this vision for Revolvers as being a kind of a horror, definitely a horror project, but the real world I had picked out for it was more like kind of Law and Order, TV show. I was kind of seeing it because of cops and everything. I was kind of seeing it that way. And then Christian sent back some early concept art of the lead characters, including Hampton. And Christian and I really hadn't talked about direction, about, just go and do your thing. And Christian sends back these initial concept art pieces, and I'm going, holy crap, this is rock and roll, and I love it. It was like he had such a great, unique vision of how to take words and then put his own spin on it and make it something that was really distinct and unique. And so I got fortunate again there that I was able to work with Christian on this, and that was just a boatload of fun seeing pages come in from Christian and just knowing they were going to be cool.
Real quick, my son and I just saw Jurassic Park in 3D today.
In
theaters, and he is a massive fan of the Jurassic World Evolution, both games.
Thank you. Yeah, so I wrote Jurassic. I wrote Jurassic World Evolution, Jurassic World Evolution 2. Got to work with all the original cast.
He knows those games inside and out, like how to build a park and maintain it, and like he is like I'm playing one game, he is constantly talking to me about like, I'm losing agriculture and the thing, and the dinosaurs are dying. I gotta go like give them the shot from the veterinarian, but I gotta make sure we're making money. I'm like, wow, and he is like into those games. So thank you so much for giving my son such enjoyment. I just texted him right now saying, hey, you'll never guess who's going on the show for one thing. I had no idea he was a writer of something else.
Yeah, I did that project for just over 5 years because we did Evolution 1 and Evolution 2. We did all the downloadable content. And again, I was really fortunate in that project to work with really talented individuals. And so Frontier Developments, which is out of Cambridge in the UK, are phenomenal. Probably as well known for another game, Elite Dangerous. And they just do phenomenal work. So yeah, I've kind of had that blessed existence where I get to work with really talented people.
Real quick, just before we get back into Revolver and Top Cow, when you're writing a video game and then the product comes out and the product is, I'm not going to say bad, but you can cherry pick stuff that you've worked on that you either don't like or liked or whatever. How does that make you feel? Because there are games that I'm looking at some of the games you've done and I'm like, man, I thought this was going to be good, but I want your opinion on something you worked on that when you finally saw the final product, you were like, what?
Yeah, you work on certain things. I think this is true for any creative endeavor, regardless of the field you're working in, whether it's film or television or music or comic books or video games or whatever. There's going to be those projects that you're really passionate about, you really love. It looks great while it's in development. It's going to be, what you think is going to be a massive hit, and it comes out and it just, for whatever reason doesn't resonate, or it critically fails, or the audience, you don't find your audience. It happens, and it's like, it's like getting up to the plate and swinging the bat. If you're a 300, if you can hit 350, you're considered a superstar. That means you're failing, 6.5 times out of 10, you're failing. It holds true in the entertainment business too. There's a certain percentage of stuff that you're going to create that for whatever reason fails. And I've always accepted that as part of the process. I just try and do the best that I can with everything that I work on. And I believe I won't work on stuff that I don't truly believe in. And so yeah, you take your hits, you take your lumps, and you move on. When I first started doing this, and you would get a bad review, you'd really take it personally. And That's not to say I don't try and learn from if somebody's making a valid point about something that I've failed on. I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to try and do better next time. But you know, the easiest way for me to explain this is that if I call an Uber and the Uber driver shows up and they have a rating of 5, I'm nervous because nobody's perfect. You know, I want to see that rating at 4.7, 4.6. Okay. Yeah, he had a few stinkers, but you know, but that's real. That to me is real. And so, yeah, so and it works the same way in the entertainment business. You know, you're not gonna hit a home run every time you get up at the plate.
Gotcha.
But that's the way it is.
I might have one more question about Jurassic World. I'm waiting for my son to get back to me, just being like, "Hey,
Sure.
do you have a question for this guy? Because you have played the hell out of these things, so this is the time to ask your questions." Getting back to Revolver real quick, and this segues out of video games for you, because you worked on the Constantine video game, the Fear Effect 2, whatever. Which Constantine and this comic book, definitely seem to have some similarities. Christian, there were 2 artists on this book.
On Revolvers?
Yeah, I don't have the book in front of me, but on
No, just Christian.
it says Simon
colorist,
Go,
right?
Simon Go.
Go.
Yeah, he's
Go.
listed as
Yeah.
artist on both the cover and the interior as well.
Yeah, he's my colorist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
every
it
single
works
thing-
perfectly.
Well, that was
Yeah,
also really
yeah.
exciting times because Christian would send over the line art, and we look at it and we go, "Oh man, this is already looking really cool." And then you'd get the colors from Simon. And Christian and Simon have worked together for a lot of years, and so I think you guys probably have a shorthand. And it was always really exciting to see the color pages come back because it just elevated what Christian had been working on.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so I don't know who puts together the cover necessarily. I'm assuming this is like the editor, but one thing I miss in comic books, Marvel and DC used to do this a lot, is the little caption box in the upper left-hand corner where the logo is. You have like your main character from Revolver there, Hampton, and I'm like, I love that. I was like, that's so cool. Look at that old school way of doing comic books. That's great. You had me right there,
Yeah.
and before I even knew what the comic book was.
That was a nice touch. I didn't expect that either, that they did that. So I thought that was a really nice touch too. And I know exactly what you mean because I was like, oh yeah, I haven't seen that in quite some time. It's usually just the image and the Top Cow logos, and that's it. Like you just get those, but it had Hampton like right there in the image symbol in the logo, whatever. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I haven't seen that in a very long time either. So it was kind of same thing. I was kind of like taken aback by it. Like, oh wow, all right, that's cool. It's a throwback.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah,
and
I
the
didn't
team
expect that at all.
the team at Top Cow, they're good people and really smart and really passionate about the art form. And so I have so much respect for Matt and Mark and the entire team over there.
Yeah, I said, we gave Top Cow as much praise and review as we could when we did both seasons of the Witchblade TV series on the Dead TV podcast, an episode at a time. And we had Nancy Butler on, we had Matt Hawkins on, we had Ron Mars on. So we definitely had the gambit of Top Cow talent on the show, and I like seeing Top Cow getting stuff out there just because they're definitely unique and different than the Image, which I guess is the parent company or something. So and I buy what's the big book? Sunstone.
Sunstone.
Yeah, and Linda Cedric is supposed to be back on for Plunder World 2, Volume 2. So that the Hades Persephone romance book. So when is Revolver series Volume 2 coming out?
So I'm not sure what I'm supposed to talk or not talk about yet on that, but
don't reveal plot details.
But we are doing a series 2. I'm currently in the process of scripting it. Christian will be drawing it as well, and it kind of expands on some of the mythology that we created for the first series. So the Moratorium is back. The Gyre, which is this big, massive machine that sits in the center of it and kind of runs it almost like a torture device, if you will, is back. But we are going to new location, and we're introducing some new characters into the mix that I think are going to be really fun.
Yeah, I am in like as we speak, I am like almost done with the final issue of a new series that's about to come out next month, through Top Cow and Epitome, Destiny Gate. And I've been talking to Richard and Lee. I talked to Lee a good bunch, and he's over at Epitome as well. And so we're talking about all this stuff, and then Richard asked me if I was interested in jumping onto volume two after I finished this, and I didn't know I didn't know that was going to happen. I was kind of surprised by that. I was like, oh, and my first thought was like, where can it go from the way that it was ended? But then he sent me over John's treatment, and right away I was like, oh, the everything, like the tone, the setting, like it felt like, wow, this is a really great idea for a sequel, because it's not a repeat in the same way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You got the world building going on. There's some key elements, but it's not playing out exactly the same, where you're just, it's like, here we go again, same character, same circumstances, and all the same things all at once. So for me right away, I could think, well, this opens up a whole new possibility to develop different kinds of things that will go into it, and I'm not going to say what I already know, which is not that much, but knowing that, what I know from reading the treatment, but it definitely got me excited right away. I was like, okay, this is a great idea for a sequel. And yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that, and I probably will start it maybe later this month. I don't know, like whenever everybody's ready. I'm ready. My kids are starting school this week, so I'm ready.
Right.
you know, I'm more than ready now. Like now I can work normal hours instead of the hours I've been doing, which make no sense at all.
Yeah.
It's almost like, how did I even get any work done? I'll never understand it, but yeah. So it's all lining up perfectly, timing wise. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. That world is very different. Uh, that John and I got to, create, and there was a lot of things that I got to try the first time visually. And looking back on it, I was like, wow, I'm really glad that I tried that and I did it, because I feel like it worked very well. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of distorted elements in some of the settings, in some of the moments, like the hospital settings. It's like the world is like getting wobbly and torn. There's like elements around, and like I've never done anything like that before. And it's not like I don't know. It's one of those things that's like you take a chance, right? You're like, you know what? I think this is going to work just fine. I don't think anyone's going to be confused by this. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I
Mhm.
know it's not necessarily like, going to distract too much from the story, but let's see how it plays out. And I think that Simon's colors really did elevate a lot of those elements,
Yep.
especially those types of things. He helped separate a lot of stuff visually. Simon is like my cinematographer. Like
Mm.
he's just like the greatest cinematographer for me, because it's like he automatically knows what I'm going for. He
Yep.
never really asks me, what do you want me to do here? You know, like the first thing he does is ask me for the script. He reads the entire script. He keeps it on the other monitor, so he can, like, as he's working, he can just kind of do it once over and read it again. So he's storytelling too. He's not just coloring things, whatever colors, and that's it. He's matching the tone. He's trying to, he's envisioning all these other elements, and he's building on top of all the lines and stuff that I put down,
Yep.
and trying to help the story be told, as much as possible. And he did some really amazing things too, without going, I would say, going too far with effects or whatever you want to call them. He kind of keeps it. Um, I want to say he keeps it sort of simple, but he knows where to use the right kind of effects, the right kind of colors that pop differently. That's why it's like you turn the page and you'll go from lots of reds and and that kind of thing to suddenly it's like, whoa, everything is kind of like this green, kind of yellow, and it makes you feel like uneasy, and that's really something. And looking back on it, I was looking at the trade a couple days ago. I was like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this, especially the third issue where he and I had a discussion. I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to spoil too much, but like in the third issue, there's a very, very gruesome scene, very Hellraiser like scene in it. And I did even kind of slightly do a homage to like a scene in Hellraiser 2 with it, because I felt like, why not? But he and I talked, and he was like, well, how should we go about this? And I said, you know what? I'm going to do my thing, and I'm gonna just go ahead and do what you feel is right, right? Not worry about it, because when we did a bunch of our own stuff during the pandemic, the stuff that came out through Black Caravan, like a lot of that was experimental. A lot of it was like, I just told him, do whatever you want, go. If you want to try something, just do it. Don't worry about it. And the result was incredible. Like he did things that were completely different, and they work. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like he just gets it. He knows where to go, and he takes a risk. It's usually it's just going to work out, for the better.
And
So yeah, and it looks great. I mean,
yeah, it does look phenomenal. And I would add, our final collaborator in the book is our letterer, Troy Pacheri, and Troy, the poor guy, because I come from a background of video games and traditional screenwriting and that sort of thing, and so my scripts don't necessarily look like other people's comic scripts, and so he had a real challenge in getting those words on the page in a way that that flowed, and he did a phenomenal job as well. So it was just a great collaboration all around, getting to work with these guys and getting to put this team together, and looking forward to doing it again.
Cool, awesome. I look forward to catching up on the first volume and when the second volume comes out, and then whatever you guys got coming up in the future past that will be great. So I wish you all the best.
We'll keep you in the loop. We'll keep you in the loop and let you know as things are happening.
Where can people find you on social media if they love Revolver?
You can find me. I used to not go on Twitter. Now that it's X, maybe I'll give it another try. But on Instagram, I'm at Zuur, Zuur, which is my middle name. And on Facebook, I'm the only John Zuur Platten on Facebook. So if people want to reach out to me and friend me, I'm happy to do that. Like I said, I don't post much on X, but I am on X at John Zuur Platten. And I'm going to make it my goal towards the end of this year and beginning of next year to get a lot more active on that. If you have questions about comics or specific video game stuff that you're interested in, or you're interested in writing in the space and you kind of want to get some pointers or learn some of the truth about what it means to be a writer in the space, I'm happy to share my knowledge.
I might hit you up on that myself. I have comics I'm in the middle of working on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now. I have
the thing I tell everybody is like, since with the strike on and everything right now, you're hearing a lot of stuff about writers. And in this space, the best thing you can be is a really good storyteller.
Okay.
If you're a really good storyteller and an average writer, that's kind of okay, because you can elevate your writing and you can pull your writing up to a place where you can make it work. But I've read so many really talented writers who are just crap at telling stories. And you really need to be able to tell a story to work in the space. You really need to be able to tell a story that's engaging, that pulls people through. You know, part of what I'm trying to do, and I think that Christian mentioned it, when I'm writing stuff, when I'm writing material, I'm trying to get you not only excited about what you're reading on this current page that you're looking at, but intrigued enough to want to turn the page and find out what happens next. And so you have to constantly be pulling somebody through your story, and you have to learn how to do that. And that's a different skill set than just writing. So yeah, those are the kind of things that I focus on in my own work. Is first and foremost, try and tell the best story I can tell.
Cool.
Because that's what at the end of the day, I'm an entertainer, and I want to entertain you. And when I can do that in a way that excites Christian enough to then take it to the next level by drawing this amazing art and actually bringing a vision that didn't exist except on the page and words, bringing the vision to life. That to me, that's me doing my job.
Well, I'll definitely reach out if I have questions. Like I said, I'm writing a couple of comic books right now. One of which is fully drawn. But now we're just looking for someone to print it because I don't want to go through that whole thing myself. It's fully finished and everything else. It just needs to find somebody to print. And then the next one is and the most human story I've ever written about suicide and depression. So it's currently being drawn. Yeah, it's got some tough stuff in there that couple people read a couple lines and being like, this one line alone doesn't make me want to read the rest of this comic book. I'm like, why?
My big advice on that, and I think it's something that Christian would agree with because I've seen the way he embraces what he does with his art. If you're gonna attack a difficult subject, if you're gonna attack a subject that is complex, controversial, you have to embrace it. Yeah. Right? There's no timid approach to it. You have to go all the way. You have to be willing to commit completely, because otherwise it feels fake and it feels like exploitative. But if you're willing to say, I'm doing it, I'm telling this story, and I'm going to tell it as truthfully and as real and as grittily, for lack of a better word, as I can, that's the way to approach it. Yeah, we definitely are. There's a couple lines in there that people have who have their own problems to deal with. They were like, like they were just flabbergasted. When I was writing parts of Revolvers, people are reading it and going, "Wow, this is kind of intense," and I'm like, "Yeah, well, because I've decided to embrace it." And then I would get the art back from Christian. And I'd go, holy. I thought my mind went to a dark place. Appreciate you. Christian took this to the next level. So it was like, that was what made working with him so much fun. I was constantly surprised. The Zoom call is going to kill us real soon. Christian, why don't you give away your information?
It's Twitter or X or whatever is at Chris Dabari, or Instagram where I post more. I just post my artwork is at Christian_Dabari. That's about it. I mean, all right, and I got your email. I'll send you over a link to the artwork. I'll send you over a private link to that short film I was telling you about. Oh yeah, dude, absolutely. I'd love to see it. Yeah, again, it's just real quick, just kind of holding up, just something to read. You know what I mean? The guy has to work the overnight shift, so. Nice. So cool, guys. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing it.